Hi, you're watching Storytime with Miss Connie, and I'm Miss Connie. And my co-host today, again, is this beautiful little boy. His name is Trouble. Why do you say his name is Trouble? Well, I really don't know because he is not getting into any trouble. He is the sweetest little kitty. He's 5 months old. He has been neutered and he's gotten all his shots. Yeah, you're a good boy. He's considered to be a black and white tuxedo because he's got white on his chest and he's got big old white whiskers. Hey, I have a tip for you. I've got actually a question, and then we're going to answer the questions later in the show. What color are the eyes of a kitten when they're born? What color are their eyes? Okay, that's question number one. Okay, the second question. True or false? The whiskers on a kitty cat, let me see if I can get, okay, here we go. The whiskers right here on the kitty cat are as wide as his body. That's a true or false. Okay, so color of a kitten's eyes. What color are they when they're born? And then what is it, true or false, that the whiskers on the kitten or cat are as wide as his body? Okay. Now, last story time, we were reading this wonderful book. It's called Puppy Rescue Riddle. Yeah, look, see. He's a good companion, let me tell you. Look, he's a good companion. Somebody needs to adopt him. He'd make a great companion, wouldn't you? I know you love me. He's making air biscuits. Okay. Anyway, so we were reading this wonderful book, and it ended with, in fact, I'll tell you what it is again, Puppy Rescue Riddle, and it's by Catherine Nichols, little doggies on the front, 3 puppies, and it says, adopt me. And we ended, well, they were trying to figure out a riddle. Elliot was going to the dog shelter. He wasn't happy, but he met Toby, the big dog, and he really liked Toby. And then a guy came in and gave a bunch of donations, and he found this book, and in the book there was an envelope, and in the envelope there was a riddle, and the riddle said, what do you put in a bucket to make it lighter? And at the end of the chapter, last chapter we read, it was the answer to the riddle, a hole. Amy and Kyung sang out. Elliot stared at the riddle in his hand. But how does the answer lead to the treasure? He wondered aloud. So now we're going to pick up where we left off. See if we can figure out what the treasure is. Okay? Dangerous weather. That's what we're going to read now because it was really raining when we last read the story. After driving several miles, they were about to pass the animal shelter. The rain was still coming down hard, and Sam was driving slowly. I hope the puppies are safe, Amy shouted over the sound of the rain, hitting the roof and slapping the windshield wipers. The building had been built on low ground. While the road was still safe to drive on, the water was quickly filling the valley below. Elliot thought of Toby sleeping in the big cage below the puppies. What if the water seeped under the door and started to rise? Toby would be trapped. We have to stop, he cried. His brother was already turning into the drive that led to the shelter. The dogs are okay for now, Sam told them, but I don't like how fast the water is rising. If the creek overruns its banks, the building will flood for sure. What can we do? Kyung asked. Sam pulled out his cell phone. I'm calling Tina, he dialed. Hi, Tina, he said when she answered. He explained about the rising water. We have to get the animals out of the shelter, he told her. It's not safe for them or us to stay here. He listened and nodded his head. That's a good idea, he said. He put away his phone. What's a good idea? Amy demanded. Tina reminded me that Frank Rooney has a cabin on high ground, now not far from here. It's right up the road. We can take the dogs there until the storm quiets down. Are you ready to help? Yes, all 3 kids shouted. Covering their heads with their jackets, they dashed into the building and got to work. Kyung packed up the dogs' food, Amy put the puppies in a crate, and the kids brought it to the van. And actually, there's a picture of all of them coming to the van. Let's see if we can get a shot of that. I don't know. Can we get a shot of that? Let me see if I can get it turned around. There you go. Oh, I'm so bad at this. There you go. See, over here, everybody's carrying the dogs out. The puppies are in there, and that must be Toby. Elliot helped Sam leash the older dogs and walk them into the van. Once again, they strapped all 7 dogs into safety harnesses. Toby was the last one in. The rain didn't seem to bother him, but he walked slowly. His legs are stiff, Sam explained. He's an old dog. When it rains like this, his joints hurt. Elliot stroked Toby's fur and gave him a thick blanket to rest on. Then all 3 kids climbed into the van. My sneakers are soaked, Amy said. So are mine, Cone said. And my hair is wet, too. I hope Mr. Rooney has a lot of towels. What if he isn't home? Elliot asked. Don't worry, Sam said. Tina told me he leaves a key under the mat for emergencies. He drove slowly up the steep mountain road, and this certainly is an emergency. Okay. And before starting the van, Sam passed his phone to Amy. You and Kyung need to call your parents and tell them there's been a change of plans. I don't want them to worry. Tell them that I'll drive you home after we get the dogs settled. By the time the girls had finished speaking to their parents, they had made the short trip up the hill to the small cabin. Mr. Rooney was on the front porch. He had on a long raincoat, a hat, and rubber boots. He looked surprised when Sam stepped out of the van. What are you doing up here? He asked. Sam quickly filled him in on the situation. And so, he ended, we hoped you would let the dogs stay in the cabin until the storm breaks. Mr. Rooney frowned and looked at all the dogs in the back of the van. Some were barking to be let out. I was just going up the road, he said. I need to check on my neighbor. Sometimes her generator goes out in storms. That's kind of you, Sam said. Well, we've been neighbors a long time, Mr. Rooney replied. This cabin has been in my family for ages. I used to come up here when I was just a boy. So about the dogs, Sam said. They won't cause any trouble, I promise. And there's a little tip. We're going to stop for a little tip. All dogs need exercise. Going on walks is a fun way to spend time with your best friend. For safety, be sure to always put a leash on your dog, and it's a good idea to bring water and a bowl with you in case your dog gets thirsty. Woo, yay! Oh, what to wear? This is interesting. In colder weather, dogs without thick fur might need a sweater or coat. Dogs don't need to wear anything in the summer, but you should walk your dog in the morning or evenings when it's cooler. And I have another little tip. When you go to walk your dog in the summer, if you go out in your bare feet and that street or that sidewalk or that driveway is too hot for your feet, it is too hot for your dog, so don't walk them. That's why you walk them early in the morning or in the evening. Okay, we're going to continue with the story. Mr. Rooney stared into the back of the van. Toby's head was pressed against the back window. His tongue was out and he was panting. Yes, the dogs can stay. I won't be away for long. Thank you, Sam said. And I want you and the kids to stay here too, Mr. Rooney added. No sense in you driving in a storm like this. Wait here until it passes. Then you can be on your way. Sam nodded. We'll do that. You trying to take my microphone off? Sorry to cause you trouble. No trouble, Mr. Rooney said. Oh, look at this. The next chapter is a missing puppy. What could that mean? The children helped Sam bring the dogs into the cabin. They dried off the wet animals, then themselves. Toby immediately settled on a rug in front of the screened fireplace. Sam laughed. You stay right here, Toby, and warm your old bones. He patted the big dog's head. Amy, you can let the puppies out of the crate. They need some exercise. I'm taking the rest of the dogs into the bedroom. Even though the log cabin was small, there was plenty for the puppies to do. As soon as Amy opened the crate, they dashed out. They scampered across the wood floor and began chasing each other. Amy and Kung clapped in delight. Elliot plopped beside Toby. The old dog kept his eyes on the frisky puppies. When one skidded into him, Toby gave a puppy a lick and nudged her away. Kyung had a ball in her pocket. She tossed it gently, and the puppies ran after it. They chased the rolling ball all through the cabin, down the hallway, and into the open kitchenette, and into the mudroom. Their excited yapping filled the cabin. Sam came out of the bedroom. He scooped up 2 puppies, 1 in each hand. You guys need to go back in your crate. Oh, here you go. Here's another. Good. Here, let's see. Here's another good. There you go. Right there. Okay, there you go. All right, that's it. All right, that's cool. You're getting too excited. He gently placed the furry balls into the crate. Help me get the rest of the puppies, Sam said to Kyung and Amy. Elliot stroked Toby's ears and watched Kyung and Amy chase the puppies around the room. Oh my gosh, they're so much fun. Here are 2 more, Kyung said, and I have another, Amy said. She scrunched her nose. But shouldn't there be 1 more? Where's Penny, the tiny copper puppy? Sam counted the puppies in the crate. 5. 1 puppy was missing. She must be hiding, he said. All hands on deck. You too, Elliot. We have to find her. Sam and the kids searched the cabin. No puppy. Where can she be? Amy wailed. Kyung bit her lip. She looked like she wanted to say something. Sam looked puzzled. Amy, he said, at the shelter you put the puppies in the crate. Are you sure you got all of them? I think so, Amy said, but we were in a hurry. There was so much going on, I can't remember if I counted them. I don't think you did, Kyung whispered. Amy looked stricken. What if the puppy is still at the shelter? Oh. The next one is another riddle. Sam hurried over to the coat rack. He put on one of Mr. Rooney's spare rain jackets. It wasn't your fault, he told Amy. We were all in a hurry. I should have checked the crate too. He zipped up the jacket. I'll drive back to the shelter and see if the puppy is there. Amy gasped. What do you mean, if? She asked. The puppy has to be at the shelter. Where else could she be? I don't remember seeing her in the cage, Kyung said. Do you? Amy shook her head and her lower lip trembled. I don't remember. Don't worry, Sam said, patting her on the shoulder. We'll find her. The shelter is just down the road. I won't be long. Can't we go with you? Amy begged. We can help you find her. No, said Sam. Mr. Rooney will be back soon, but until he's here, I need you to stay and look after the dogs. The telephone is over there. He pointed to an old-fashioned phone on the desk in the hallway. Call me if there's a problem. You know my number. Elliot. After Sam left, the 3 kids stared at each other. They were all thinking the same thing. Where was the missing puppy, and was she okay? Outside, the wind howled. A flash of lightning lit up the gloom. It was followed quickly by a loud crack. Oh my goodness, the 3 kids jumped. It was probably just a falling tree branch, Elliot said bravely. He hoped he sounded calmer than he felt. His heart was racing. Kyung and Amy were clinging to each other. Let's search one more time, Elliot suggested. He figured that being busy would keep their minds off the storm. Remember how the puppies were running around? Maybe the puppy got stuck somewhere. Good idea, said Kyung. Let's look for her together. Amy? But Amy shook her head. It's my fault, she said in a low voice. My mom is right. I'm not responsible enough to have a dog. Kyung hugged her friend. That's not what she said. She said you have to show her you're responsible. So start looking. Amy nodded, and the 3 kids examined every inch of the cabin. They looked behind the refrigerator and stove. They crawled under tables and opened cupboards, but they didn't find the puppy. Elliot sank on the rug next to Toby. The big dog licked his hand. I guess she's not here, Elliot said at last. Kyung nodded. Oh, I think I can see where this story is going. That's why, then why hasn't Sam called to say he's found her? Amy's dark eyes were wide with worry. Elliot wished he could get everybody's mind off the puppy. Then he remembered the paper with the riddle. He pulled it out with his jeans pocket and unfolded it. I still don't get how the riddle leads to the treasure, he said. Kyung looked around the cabin. The book was in the box of supplies Mr. Rooney brought to the shelter, right? Elliot nodded. Then maybe the treasure is somewhere in the cabin. Didn't he say the cabin has been in his family for years and years? Amy stood up. The answer to the riddle was a hole in the bucket. She walked over to a framed print hanging on the wall. It showed a girl with a bucket milking a cow. Amy peered at the picture. There's a tiny hole in the bucket, she said excitedly. It looks like it was made with a pin. Kung and Elliot got up to look. Amy took the print off the wall and turned it over. A piece of notebook paper was folded and taped to the other side. What are you waiting for? Kung cried. Open it and see what it says. Bad news. Amy carefully removed the yellow stripe of tape. Then she unfolded the paper. This note is written in purple ink too, she said. Read it, Elliot said. Good for you, Amy read. You found the answer to the riddle. Now here's another one. What has 88 keys but can't open any doors? Elliot shook his head. It beats me. What good are keys if you can't open a door? Keys aren't just for opening doors, Amy reminded him. There are keys that open safes and diaries. Good thinking, Elliot said. Kung giggled. What's so funny? Amy asked her friend. I can't believe you don't know the answer, Kung said. You do? Elliot said. Of course, Kung said. Well, are you going to tell us what it is? Amy tapped her foot impatiently. It's a piano, Kung sang out proudly. I should know. I take lessons on one every week. Ooh. Elliot groaned. It seemed so obvious now. But Amy wasn't satisfied. What kind of a clue is that? She demanded. Look around. Do you see a piano? It was true. The piano couldn't fit into the small cabin. Just then the telephone rang. Elliot stepped over the desk and picked up the receiver. Hello? He listened for a long time. Okay, he said at last. Don't worry about us. We're okay. He hung up the phone. That was Sam, he told the girls. The puppy wasn't at the shelter. Amy shook her head. That can't be, she said. Where else could she be? She's not here. We looked and looked. Another bolt of lightning filled the room. It was followed by thunder. Well, if she's outside in a storm. What if she's outside in the storm? Amy cried. Kung put her arms around her friend. When will Sam be back? She asked. That's the other problem, Elliot said. His van stalled in all this rain. He's trying to fix it, but he said it might be a while. Kung gulped. I'm getting scared, she confessed. I just want to go home. But what about Penny? Amy said. We have to find her. Sam called Mr. Rooney and told him about the missing puppy and the van. Mr. Rooney is on his way. He should be here in about 10 minutes, Elliot said. Maybe he'll have some ideas. Crash! Outside, a tree branch fell. Amy clutched Kung's arm. I hope he gets here soon, she said. Elliot didn't answer. He was staring at something on the desk. Next to the phone was a gold music box in the shape of a piano. He picked it up and showed it to the girls. Here's the piano. The final riddle. Ooh. Elliot turned the music box upside down, but there wasn't a piece of paper taped to the bottom. Open the lid, Kung said. Elliot did. I don't see anything, he said. He showed them the smooth red velvet under the lid. I don't care about the silly game, Amy cried. I just want to find Penny. She went and gazed into the crate. The 5 puppies were sleeping in a pile. Amy looked at them and sighed. Kung looked at the music box, took the music box from Elliot. I have one of these, she said. She gently lifted the velvet compartment. Underneath, next to the mechanism that played the musical notes, was a folded piece of paper. Carefully, Kung took it out and handed it to Elliot. Taking a deep breath, Elliot read the riddle. This is the last riddle. If you succeed, you will find the treasure. What has hands but cannot clap? Amy looked up from the puppies. Read that again, she demanded. Write the riddle. Elliot repeated, what has hands but cannot clap? I know, Amy said. Her eyes lit up. It's a clock, right? It has to be a clock. Yes, Kung said. That makes sense. So where's a clock? Elliot asked. The 3 kids looked around the cabin. A wall clock hung in the kitchenette, but when they took it down, nothing was taped to it. Maybe it's inside the clock, Amy said. Elliot shook his head. I don't want to break Mr. Rooney's clock. I think I remember seeing a clock. It was when we were looking for the puppy. She walked over to the mudroom at the back of the cabin. Amy and Elliot followed her. A tall grandfather clock stood outside against one wall. The base to the clock had a small door. Kung crouched and opened it. Ellie and Amy held their breath. Kung shook his head. "It's empty," she reported. "Maybe someone already found the treasure a long time ago." Elliot nodded. He felt disappointed. They had solved all the riddles but hadn't found the treasure. He walked over to the back window, looked out onto the garden. The storm finally stopped. He said, "It's just drizzling now." "Yay!" Kung shouted. Amy held up her hand. "Be quiet," she ordered. "I heard something." The three kids listened. Faint but steady yapping came from the clock. "That's strange," Kung said. "A clock that barks?" "That's not the clock," Amy cried. "That's the puppy." She dropped to her knees and stuck her head into the open compartment. "Penny, where are you?" A louder yap answered her. "Maybe she's behind the clock," Elliot said. "Help me move it." Carefully, the three children inched the clock further away from the wall. No puppy. "But I can hear her," Amy wailed. Ellie shook his head. "The yapping isn't coming from the clock," he said. "Listen." Woo. The children stood still, not talking. Yap, yap, yap. "It's coming from inside the wall," Kung shouted. Elliot examined the panel wall around the clock carefully. Every few feet he knocked on the wood. "What are you doing?" Amy asked. "Shh," Elliot said. "I need to find where the wall isn't solid." A few feet from the clock he knocked again. Instead of a dull thud, the sound was hollow. "This is it," he cried. He pointed to a narrow door that came up to his waist. The door blended in so well with the wood that it was almost impossible to see. "It's a trap door," he explained. "I bet it goes to the attic. We have one at our house. But how did Penny get in there?" he asked. Elliot shrugged. "She must have managed to open the door with her paw." "I see scratches in the wood," Kung said. She pointed to faint marks at the bottom of the door. Elliot nodded. "And it's pretty drafty in here. The wind might have slammed the door shut and trapped her inside." "Just get her out," Amy wailed. There wasn't a doorknob, so Elliot felt the wood panels until he found an opening. He wedged his fingers inside and pulled the door open. Out sprang a yappy, furry ball. Amy scooped the tiny, trembling puppy into her arms. "Penny!" she cried. The treasure at last. Oh, I see, I got to get through this. Oh, my gosh. Penny was licking Amy's face when the back door opened. Mr. Rooney stepped into the mudroom. He looked at, oh, wait a minute, let's just go back here. I don't think we have enough time. Let's see. I think we do. "I'm sure you can," Mr. Rooney said. He took off his raincoat and hat and placed them on hooks. "But first I need a hot cup of cocoa. What about you?" 10 minutes later, the children were sipping hot cocoa. They told Mr. Rooney about their adventures. Mr. Rooney chuckled. "You found the envelope in my old book?" Ellie showed him the first riddle. "I can remember writing this," Mr. Rooney told them. Amy looked up from petting Penny. "You wrote the riddles?" "Yes," Mr. Rooney said, "when I was not much older than you. My cousin Tim was visiting, and I thought it would amuse him." "So Tim never found the treasure?" Mr. Rooney shook his head. "Asked Tim wanted to do was fish and play cards," he shrugged. "So I tucked away the envelope in the book. I was reading and forgot all about it." "So where is the treasure?" Kung asked. "We didn't find any." "Yes, we did," Amy said sharply. She picked up Penny and gave her a kiss. "We found the most important treasure of all." "That you did," Mr. Rooney said with a smile, "but there is another treasure." Elliot jumped to his feet and ran to the mudroom. The girls followed. Elliot poked his head inside the trapdoor. "I don't see anything," he said. "That's because you're not looking in the right place," Mr. Rooney told him. "Remember the last riddle?" "But it wasn't in the grandfather clock." Elliot stared at the tall clock, then he dragged a chair over to it. He climbed up and stood on tiptoes. He reached up and felt around the top of the clock. "I got it," he cried. Mr. Rooney helped him bring down a battered cardboard box. "Open it," Mr. Rooney said. Elliot lifted the lid. Inside it was packed with objects from nature, rocks with glittery specks in them, dried wildflowers, bird feathers, porcupine quills, a spotted turtle shell, and many other wonders. Everything I collected from the woods around the cabin. Elliot picked up the shiny rock. "I can't take it," Elliot said. "It's yours. But you played my game and won." "We all did. So we can share it." "No, thank you," Amy said. "I already have my treasures." She snuggled Penny. Krug kneeled beside Elliot. "I'd like to share," she said. "I collect wildflowers." "Great." Elliot smiled at her. So, more surprises. Oh, okay. We're running out of time. So, I guess you guys are going to have to go to the library and get the last chapter. Let's see. if I can help you. Let me see. Uh-huh. 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 Okay, I know what's happening. You need to go get this book, Puppy Rescue Riddle, to find out the rest of the story. Now, I'm going to answer the questions I asked you at the beginning of the show. The color of the cat's eyes. What color are they when they're born? Well, first of all, they're not open until they're 10 days old, 10 days to 2 weeks. They are blue. Blue. All kittens have blue eyes. They change their color when they're about 6 weeks, not 6 weeks, excuse me, 2 weeks. No, excuse me. 2 weeks is when, oh my gosh, my head. They open their eyes when they're 10 days to 2 weeks. When they're about 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks old, their eyes change colors. Sometimes they stay blue, but very often they change colors. And then, true or false, the whiskers of a cat. Are they as wide as the cat? True or false? It is true. That's why you never trim a cat's whiskers. The whiskers tell them whether they can fit into a space or not. If the whiskers touch the edge, they know they can't fit in there. So there's 2 wonderful little tidbits for you. Now, I would like to thank everybody for tuning in with me and my lovely friend, Trouble. I hope somebody will adopt him soon because he's a really wonderful kitty. And I want to leave you with my wonderful thought of the day. Please spay or neuter your pets to prevent more homeless animals because they are a cause for pause. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.